The sea had not slept in 1,000 years, not once, not even for a moment. Until the night, a small red crab decided to do something about it. "Hi there, little one. I'm Cozy Bear. Tonight, on a shore where the waves never stop and the ocean never rests, a very determined little crab is about to try something no one has ever tried before. Settle in, little dreamer. Here we go. There is a place at the edge of the world where the land ends and the sea begins, where the waves come in one after another endlessly. The way breathing comes, without thoughts, without pause, without rest, in, out, all day, all night, through every season, through every storm and every calm. The sea never stopped. The sea never slept. Everyone who lived near the shore had simply accepted this. The seabirds built their nests in the cliffs and ignored the sound. The tide pools filled and emptied and filled again, and the creatures inside them went about their lives as if endless motion were the most natural thing in the world, because of course for them it was. Everyone accepted it, except for one. His name was Arlo. He was a small red crab with 9.5 legs. He had lost half of one in an incident involving a pelican he did not like to discuss, and the most determined expression any crab had ever worn. Arlo was known on the shore for two things. First, he walked faster than any crab anyone had ever seen, his 9.5 legs moving in a blur that made other crabs tired just watching. Second, he worried magnificently, comprehensively, about everything, but most of all, he worried about the sea. "It never rests," he told anyone who would listen. "Not once, not ever. Don't you find that exhausting, just watching it?" The other crabs would look at the sea. They would look at Arlo. They would go back to whatever they were doing. Arlo would sigh and watch the waves and worry some more. One evening, at low tide, when the shore was wide and flat, and the sea had pulled back to show its quieter self, the sandy stretches, the sleeping anemones, the smooth stones that only appeared at low water, Arlo made a decision. He was going to help the sea sleep. He wasn't entirely sure how, but he had given it a great deal of thought. He had given it approximately 3 weeks of thought, which for a crab is an extraordinary amount. And he had concluded that what the sea needed was a lullaby. Not just any lullaby, a proper one. The kind that started quiet and got slower and ended in that particular trailing off way that made your eyes heavy just hearing it. "Right," said Arlo. He cleared his throat. He faced the sea. He began. He was not, it must be said, a natural singer. His voice was small and a little scratchy, the voice of someone who spent most of their time worrying rather than singing. But he sang with complete sincerity, which counts for a great deal. He sang about waves that grew slow and gentle. He sang about deep water turning dark and still. He sang about the moon laying a long silver road across the surface, and the sea simply resting on it, letting itself be held. He sang for a long time. The other crabs watched from a careful distance. A seagull landed nearby and tilted its head. 3 small fish rose to the surface and seemed to listen. And the sea kept moving in, out, the same as always. Arlo stopped singing. He sat down heavily on a wet rock and looked at the sea. The sea looked back, which is to say, it moved and sparkled the way it always did, which is not quite looking back but close enough on a good evening. "It didn't work," said a voice. Arlo turned. On the rock beside him sat an ancient sea turtle, so old that barnacles had grown on her shell, and she wore them the way very old things wear their age, not as something extra, but as part of themselves. "No," said Arlo, "it didn't work. The sea doesn't sleep the way you and I sleep," said the turtle. Her name was Calma. She had been passing this shore for longer than the lighthouse had been standing. "I know," said Arlo, "but it should. Everything should rest sometimes. Even the sea." Calma looked at him with eyes the color of deep water. "Tell me," she said, "why does it matter to you?" Arlo was quiet for a moment. The question had reached somewhere he hadn't expected. "Because," he said slowly, "if even the sea can rest, if something that big, that powerful, that ancient can't stop, then how is anything ever supposed to? How am I supposed to?" The words came out smaller than he'd intended, more honest. Calma looked at him for a long time. "Ah," she said, "so it isn't really about the sea." Arlo looked at his 9.5 legs. "No," he admitted, "I suppose it isn't." "You worry a great deal," said Calma gently. "I know. And you never stop, do you?" Arlo was quiet. "I don't know how," he said finally. It was perhaps the most honest thing he had ever said. Calma turned back to the sea. "Watch," she said. Arlo watched. The waves came in, they went out, over her and over, the same motion he had watched his whole life. "What do you see?" asked Calma. "Waves," said Arlo, "moving, never stopping." "Look closer," said Calma, "between them." Arlo looked closer, and for the first time he noticed something he had never noticed before. Between each wave and the next, in that brief suspended moment before the water gathered itself to come in again, there was a pause, small, almost invisible, but there, a moment of complete stillness, of held breath, of rest. "Oh," said Arlo. "The sea does rest," said Calma quietly. "Not the way you rest. Not for long, but between every wave, every single one, there is a moment of absolute quiet. It always comes back, The rest always comes. You just have to know where to look for it. Arlo watched another wave arrive. He watched it go, and in the gap between, small as a breath, brief as a blink, he felt it. The pause, the rest, the quiet at the center of all that motion. "Oh," he said again, more softly this time. "It's there. It was always there." Calma left as quietly as she had arrived, moving back into the water with the slow dignity of something very old and very certain of itself. Arlo sat on his rock as the sun went down and watched the waves. He didn't try to sing them to sleep. He didn't worry about them. He just watched. Wave, pause, wave, pause. Each pause a small pocket of silence given freely there for anyone who knew to look. And for the first time in a very long time, Arlo the crab, 9.5 legs, magnificent warrior, would-be singer of lullabies, felt himself grow quiet. Not because the world had stopped, not because everything was resolved, not because he had found all the answers, but because he had found a pause, and the pause was enough. There is rest available to you, little one, even on the busiest nights, even when the thoughts keep coming in like waves, one after another after another. Look for the pause between them, that small, still moment before the next one arrives. It is always there, it always comes. Your rest is always there, waiting between the waves, the way it has always been. Quiet and patient and completely yours. Breathe in and find the pause. Good night, little dreamer. Sweet, sweet dreams. And that little one was tonight's story. Cozy Bear hopes you have the most wonderful, magical dreams tonight. See you next time. Good night.